This is my man Kyler, dude. Say hello.
What's up?
We are in Gilroy, California right now.
Like, I remember when Kel was at the Olympics, I think that was harder on all of us than it was on him, just because we were pulling for him so much and just wanted him to win. And they always asked the question, you know, like, how did you coach your sons? He always just said, I just wanted to spend time with my boys.
You're on the short list of people that I like to bounce ideas off of.
You're not tough.
Johnny wins. Yeah, that's right. Like if my kid's tough, I'm tough. And I'm like,
a big thing that a lot of parents can't recognize is you can wrestle well and lose, and you can wrestle terrible and win. I think that winning is important.
Yes.
You know,
it says run the race to win, dude. Like,
oh, sorry. Are we back on?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Yeah. I thought we were just.
Hey, what's up, guys? We're Cladcast, episode 5, I think, Cinco. I got my man Cyler Sanderson here with me, good friend of mine now. We've become good friends over the last few years. Awesome. We were just having like deep spiritual conversation off camera. I don't know at what point this thing turned on, but it's cool. We are in Gilroy, California right now. We just finished up our P&L regionals. It was super cool. This is my man Cyler. Needs no introduction. He is of the Sanderson family, the royal family of wrestling. I remember growing up seeing your whole family's pictures in USA Wrestling Magazine. Nobody watching this will understand, but it was pre-flow, pre-track, pre-anything. You got all your news and whatever in this magazine monthly. And so, anyways, it's pretty wild. I remember he was good when I was starting wrestling, but good friend of mine, fantastic man, probably better man than wrestling coach. That's not a real high bar, but this is my man Cyler, dude. Say hello. Introduce yourself. Yeah, what's up?
What's up? This is Cyler Sanderson. Happy to be here. Thank you for that amazing, not amazing introduction.
We always say at the club that like the more love we have somebody, the more we pick on them, right? So like we like make fun of all.
I've been giving you a lot of crap this weekend.
That's what I heard. I heard that, you know, I was reading it through that filter as well. Yeah. We only pick on people we love, and so me and this guy have been picking on each other a lot. It's been awesome. Man, dude, there's so much. I thought we just literally came out of this deep faith, spiritual conversation that's awesome. I got to say one thing that one of the things that I love about this P&L stuff is it's kind of put us in a circle with other high quality, high character folks that are doing really the same thing everywhere around the country, you know. And so over the last, I guess, couple years, as you and I have become good friends, it's been really awesome to get to just talk to you about, like, we have a lot of the same problems, I guess, right? I mean, we're trying to like coach wrestling at a high level in non-traditional states where there may not be crazy deep culture, or your kids are competing. You're competing with your kids' time for other sports and whatever. I mean, talk to me about like what's that like in Utah, Sanderson Wrestling Academy, all the things. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm super glad to be part of the P&L because it's providing opportunities for our athletes to get high quality matches on a consistent basis. And for us, that's always a challenge. I think that's a challenge for most of the states, like you said, that are non-traditional wrestling states, because we just don't have a ton of athletes, right? We don't have, you know, we got guys playing football, we got guys doing a lot of things. And so for our athletes to come out here and have the opportunity to compete against good guys, that's what's going to get them over the hump.
Super awesome. You brought like freaking 50 guys, I think, out here. It was awesome. A drove of people, dude. That's a super testament to like your following and all things, man. You got crazy buy-in in your program. Okay, so how long have you been? So Sanderson Wrestling Academy. How long have you been doing your thing?
So we started. Our first year was 2016. So the fall of 2016. It was super small. The first couple of years, I was still working full time. I think 2.5 years into having the club, I decided to go full time with a lot of encouragement from my wife, which was great. She really pushed me to do that. And ever since then, we've just been building and growing, and we've got a great club. We've got a lot of great wrestlers. and they're doing well.
Dude,
You know,
it's crazy. I mean, I was just saying this here, like you have so many kids. Like you have so many kids. They're like, there's a freaking army of little dudes.
yeah, we brought 40 something boys and 5 girls to this event, you know, and there's a whole slew more that wanted to come that they couldn't make it. But it's fun. It's fun to see wrestling grow. It's fun to get Utah back on the map. You know, that's one of our biggest goals is to put guys in college and have them win on the national stage. And I think we're trending that way. You know, we had a great performance in Fargo this year. We had 5 boy freestyle All-Americans and 1 girl that was a freestyle All-American. And so
It's freaking awesome. It's crazy good, dude.
it's doing good things. So
It's just, yeah, it's, so Ironclad started the same year, right? And so it's fun to talk to you because there's like there's a timeline that's somewhat parallel, right? Like, my pastor always talks about like, marriage, like, hey, when you've been married 2 years, like you have a 2-year-old, you know, he's like, so your marriage is a 2-year-old. When you've been married 20 years, you have a 20-year-old. So like there's some maturity that comes from that, right? And just like any business or whatever else. So like as a wrestling club, like we're both in that like 7-year, like we have a 7-year-old. It's not
Right.
4 or 5. Like he doesn't throw food anymore. Like, but he's also
Sometimes.
7. Like, yeah. We had fun food conversations. You got how old's your boy now?
he's 2.
2. Yeah. I'll say he's like 1.5 or 2. Yeah. 2 years old. We had some fun conversations about toddlers this week already. So yeah, man, I mean, so what's it like? Obviously you have all the connections in the world with Penn State, like your brothers are there. I've talked to you a few times and you're like out there visiting them because their schedules are crazy. I guess y'all's family goes out and kind of visits and stuff. I mean, what's it like being at home in Utah and like, I mean, there's just such a Penn State craze because of all the success. What's that like having like these guys that are on such a pedestal? I remember talking to you one time about your brothers, and you were like, "Yeah, I remember when he was shooting me with a BB gun, like turd." You know, like what's that like being that they're just normal dudes to you, but to like the community that we serve in, they're like celebrities or they're on a pedestal. What's that like being their brother?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think about that too often, to be honest. I mean, I know that everybody knows who Kale is and knows who Cody is, and it's pretty cool, you know. It's definitely been a great benefit to me in my life and to our program. But ultimately, you know, one thing that I think about is just my dad always taught us to be super happy for our brothers and the successes that they're having. And so, I don't know, when you were talking, that's what was coming to my mind is just like how happy I am for Kale and Cody and you know, my whole family and the success that they have. It's pretty fun to watch, and wish I was a little bit closer so I could see them more and stuff, but I don't know.
It's really cool. I mean, again, I've got to know you really well, right? I mean, we talk all the time, and I just have so much respect for you in all things. Like that, we definitely are cut from the same cloth in not just what we're doing, which is kind of obvious, but like the way that we want to do things and faith and being husbands and fathers, all those things. We have so much in common. So it's again, I look at you like, and I see all those things, but then you also have brothers in the sport, right? And so, like, I have 2 brothers that we all coach and do the wrestling and jiu-jitsu stuff and whatever. Their names are not Kale and Cody, but but we all do that. And so I look at you and I see the relationship that y'all have, and honestly, the joy and like pride that you have of like, hey, they're just normal dudes. Like, yeah, that's my brother. Like, you don't talk about them like it's this dude, you know, that's untouchable. You're like, that's my brother, and I'm so happy for him. And I really look at it, and honestly, with like, envy isn't the word, that sounds negative, but like I want that for like me and my brothers. Like, it really is such a special thing that I don't even know if you know, but like it's it's cool to watch, man. Like I think other people see that, the people that know you, and they're like, man, I want to be more like that. It's a really cool thing. Where do you think that comes from? Is it from your dad? Like just the awesome job that he did?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know he's told stories about when my brothers were young and, one of them was winning and one of them wasn't. And it was always a different one. It didn't really matter. They all had a lot of success in the youth and they all took big hits and lost. But one thing he never allowed them to do was tease each other for like the results that they got. He always said that they're your brother. You take care of them. You love them. You're happy for their success. And it's just allowed us to grow up in a way that I believe that we all genuinely want each other to win more than we want ourselves to win.
Yeah.
And, like I remember when Kel was at the Olympics, I think that was harder on all of us than it was on him just because we were pulling for him so much and just wanted him to win. And it was pretty amazing. And I think that my dad did a good job in setting the tone for that because his primary objective in being a wrestling coach was spending time with his sons. And I think that that's something that allowed us all to have, some success in the sport was that he just wanted to be with us. Yeah. Whether it was wrestling or fishing or camping or playing baseball or whatever, it didn't matter. It happened to be wrestling most of the time, but because of that, it was just always a very strong family environment, and it was always positive, I mean, probably not that way, right? Every second of every,
There was a few rough patches, maybe once or twice.
I threw a headgear a couple times and got yelled at, stuff like that. But I mean, he definitely set that tone and that expectation of how we are supposed to be in relation to each other. And I'm super, super grateful to him for that.
Your dad is he's so cool. I've in the little bit that I've gotten to talk to him, I'm like, dude, I could sit down with him and drink coffee, and I could sit on a porch in a rocking chair with that guy and talk all day. He seems like a national treasure. I mean, honestly, he reminds me in his mannerisms and stuff a lot of my pawpaw, who's obviously older than him, and he passed a couple years ago. But I'm like, if my pawpaw was a wrestling coach, I think it would have been him. It'd be that way. He's it's so cool when he's talking. There's just so much wisdom laced in every word. It's so funny.
Yeah, I love having my dad around. I love bringing him to tournaments and having him be around parents because he had more success as a wrestling dad or as much success as anyone that there's been
ever.
Right. And so he has great advice.
That's a big thought. Seriously, when I've never put in that context, hey, he's literally Superman as far in terms of wrestling dads. Has anyone, bro, that's a crazy, idea. I've never even pondered that.
Yeah.
Of oh yeah, literally he's the winningest wrestling dad of all time and ever will be. Probably
yeah.
Good luck.
He's up there for sure. And he just has so much to offer on so many levels. Obviously, he coached wrestling for, 40 years and had a ton of success, built multiple programs and top 10 teams in the country, top 5 teams in the country from a tiny little town in Utah, and was able to raise all of his sons and teach them all how to wrestle. And he has so much to offer, and the kids love him. The parents love him. So I keep pushing him, trying to get him out to more things, but he just... it takes a little pushing,
Yeah.
But
That's
he
so
is.
Cool.
He's got so much. I wish that his knowledge was... I think he could help so many dads, that want their kids to be successful or want their kids are just in wrestling or in any sport. It doesn't matter. He's a great father, and I really appreciate everything that he's done for me and my brothers, and for so many other people.
It's so crazy. So, yeah, I feel like I could just hover on that and just keep talking because it really is special. And it's the thing that gets messed up so much, right? So last week, interviewed another buddy of mine, Jeremy Allen, who's incredible man, integrity, was one of my mentors in so many ways, faith, business, like everything. He's just a 10. And we were working through this topic of like coaching your son, like how difficult it is to get right. But if you get it right, how like eternal the rewards are. Like the rewards are just exponential. They're infinite. And so like I was talking about, just anecdotal stuff. Like I had started out with telling everybody like, hey, don't coach your sons. Like, because I think it's more difficult to get right in wrestling even than other sports because of the difficulty of wrestling. Like coaching your sons in baseball is, I'm sure, difficult, or football, right? But like coaching them in wrestling is significantly more challenging, in my opinion, because of the difficulty and the adversity of the sport and how personal it is. Mm-hmm. And so I was talking about how Tom Brands didn't coach Nelson and how John didn't coach JoJo, right? Through their developmental years and whatever. I mean, I guess eventually they're on their team, and I don't know the details of how that works inside the wrestling room in college. But like I remember sitting on my back porch talking to you one day, and you were talking specifically about your dad coaching you guys and like how he did a great job of that and how he balanced that well and whatever, and like his temperament in those things. Like, talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you think that he obviously did an excellent job, the best ever, right? So like what was he like? What did he do well, and what did he do so differently than what we see widespread throughout like our wrestling community now?
Well, I would say like the first thing is just kind of what I already said was, so I watched him get interviewed when Kale was going through college like multiple times because everybody wants to talk to Kale's dad and ESPN or whatever it is. And they always ask the question, like, how did you coach your sons? How did you help them be successful? And his answer was always the same. He always just said, I just wanted to spend time with my boys. And I think if more dads saw that like, hey, coming out to Gilroy this weekend or going to Fargo or going wherever it is just an opportunity for me to spend really good quality time with my boys and help them accomplish a goal, like that right there would change most people's perspective in lives as coaches. And
it's so big. Yeah, dude. Like, just think about, okay, that's a simple idea, but when you let it trickle down, like it changes everything. It becomes a universally positive experience, honestly. Like,
because, well, and the thing is like so many people say that that's what they're doing. They say that that's what they want, but they can't really separate themselves from the emotion in the competition.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge. So like other sports, there's a lot of FOMO, like baseball, football, especially where we live. There's a lot of FOMO of you have to be doing certain things or you're going to miss out or get left behind or whatever. With wrestling, I don't see like a FOMO type thing as a motivator, but there's a ton of status that is wrongfully associated with your kid's performance.
Right.
So like,
you're not
if
tough
Johnny
because your
wins,
kid's good.
yeah, that's right. Like if my kid's tough, I'm tough. And I'm like, you're looking at the fat guy, fat dad over here that needs to lose 60 pounds.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and his son, and I'm like, man.
Yeah.
You can just watch an interaction between. You can just watch an interaction between a father and a son and go, that's toxic. You can see it. You can watch it from across the room.
Yeah.
Like, I know they love their son. Like, it's not a matter of love. It's just there's a toxic relationship going on there of like approval, disapproval, you know what I mean? Or status or whatever.
Well,
and then it really just gets off base in a bunch of ways all at once.
I think a couple things with that too is like he had enough wrestling experience that he could recognize if we were getting beat by somebody who was better than us, if we weren't putting the effort in and that's why we were losing, if we weren't executing, like he knew, right? Where a lot of dads just say, well, he won, he lost, and that's how they're basing their reaction. That's how they're basing their emotions. He was very good at maintaining composure all the time. And the only times that like we really got in trouble or got yelled at or whatever was one for character issues, character flaws, like, being a jerk, throwing our headgear, doing stupid stuff, being disrespectful to coaches or officials.
Something like that, yeah.
Those things, obviously unacceptable. Quitting, not putting in full effort. But every single thing that we were corrected on were life skills, right? It wasn't you just got beat.
It wasn't a
Because
results thing.
a big thing that a lot of parents can't recognize is you can wrestle well and lose, and you can wrestle terrible and win, right? And like they don't have the ability to see the difference and know that it's important to wrestle better and lose than it is to wrestle bad and win, right? And his focus was always on making progress. Like we never dwelt on failure or losing. It was just like, okay, what happened in this match? What can we do better? How can we carry that forward?
Man,
like a lot of little things, but like he did such a good job also of like seeing the end from the beginning, where like we didn't get caught in the weeds of like little matches. Every single match I ever wrestled, whether I was wrestling at a national championship match or state finals or local event, he always said the same thing. It's just practice, and like that also helped me just like focus on getting better. But he understood that like winning, divisionals in Utah wasn't the goal, right? The goal was to be the best that we can be.
That's so wild, dude. This isn't going to make sense for viewers or whatever, but like what you just said, basically that, hey, for my dad, results didn't matter, effort mattered, right? Like,
well, and I think results were important, but it was like results are an indicator that you're doing other things right. It's like results are showing us that we're moving in the right direction, but like that's not the goal.
it'll take care of itself,
Progress.
which everybody says, like, oh, if I had $1 for every time a dad has said, like, I don't care if he wins. That's not what I care about. And I'm like,
Yes, you do.
sure, seems like you care.
I don't care if he wins. Yeah, sure you don't. Or yes, you do. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, dude,
it's like-
man, like, come on, dude.
I don't know. It's weird how you said that.
It's weird how you said that.
I said with all due respect.
Oh, sorry. Are we back on?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah.
I thought we were just.
You're good. And so, yeah, I said with all due respect, it's like, I said I didn't care if he wins. Like yeah, that's exactly like. Here comes a statement about how much they care if he wins.
Well,
Like,
I think like some of the topics though, like winning and losing, they're really, really hard to discuss because I think that winning is important.
yes, it says run the race to win, dude. Like,
Yeah,
run the race
to be a
win.
national champion, you have to win matches, right? And teaching a kid how to win is teaching a kid how to win, not just at wrestling, but win in other ways, And like kids need to learn how to win. They need to learn how to be smart. They need to learn how to figure things out and come out on top, because that's what's going to happen in their life. They're going to need to figure out how to come out on top. They got to do it honestly and the right way. But like it is important, but sometimes we get so caught up in the winning that we destroy relationships. We get so caught up in the winning that we can't see the progress that they're making.
Right.
And
Well, there's so many variables. Like that, I think that's one of the things that for me, if you're looking at winning and losing, like there's so many variables. You can do it. This is especially true in a small state, like a non-traditional wrestling state. You can do it wrong and win. And so now when you go back to like after the match, you're like, hey, I know that you won the match, but you actually didn't do this correctly. And so like, I'm trying not to step on this cord. So like there's so many variables that go into winning, right? Like winning is, let's say there's 50 variables, right? Like what were your tactics like? What was your technique like? What was your decision making like? What was your conditioning like? What's your attitude? What was your warm up, right? Like what was your nutrition like? What was your weight cut? I mean, there's all these things, and each one of those is like its own topic that runs deep, right? And so you can use bad technique or a terribly timed lat drop and win the match, but that doesn't really mean that you did like the right thing the right way. You know what I'm saying? You can negatively reinforce, you can positively reinforce the wrong thing. Does that make sense? Like, and so when I look at it, it's like you have to be able to delineate like those different things that are good and bad, right and wrong, or where there's progress or where there was a shortcoming. And it's really, honestly, sometimes I have to check myself and go, hey, are you excusing losing? Like, so I have this theory, this idea of like, it's going to take 1,000 losses to be great. Like because when you lose, there's the pain of losing, and there's an emotional learning moment that teaches some kind of lesson. And so when you've been through 1,000 losses, you're not going to, and on the way to losing 1,000 times, you start losing less, right? But like if you've lost 1,000 times, you're pretty good, because if you survive that, you've learned 1,000 lessons, right? This is kind of this idea. It's imperfect math, but the idea of it. So like I'll have a kid who's, I know is getting better, but I'm like looking for the thing he messes up, and I'm like, okay, hey, you messed up A, but we've corrected A. Now you messed up, L, and then we're working on L, and eventually they've made all the mistakes, but they'll just be. I'm like, no, he's getting better right now, but we got to fix this other thing now. Oh, it's this other thing. It's like a car that has got 300,000 miles on it. There's just something broken on it that we got to fix. Eventually it's all been fixed. But I catch myself at times almost, I check myself and I go, I wonder if the parents think that I'm like excusing losing, or am I just making the next excuse or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know if what I'm saying makes sense. When I'm trying to figure out the enigma of, hey, why is this kid that's really skilled not having success right now? You know what I mean? At this next level, trying to isolate those variables and figure out what they are, and then go, how do I train that thing intentionally? Like it's just this, I don't know, it's just this slippery slope of an idea. I always have to check myself and just figure out if, I don't even know what I'm saying. Like I wonder if parents understand that. Maybe that's the best thing. I wonder how many parents actually understand that there's so many variables to get right, and that it just freaking takes time to get them all right. You know what I mean? Like there's a real disconnect in winning and losing, and they really only notice and pay attention to the result. Like that's really just this thing that everybody gets stuck on there. It's like, if you win, it's a good day, and if you lose, it's a bad day. And it's just, there has to be, you should want to win, you should be trying to win, but ultimately you're looking for all these skills that you have to get right. Like there's just all these skills that you're pursuing, and they're really life skills. They're not like wrestling skills. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just this crazy thing that I feel like most people, and when I say most, I mean 90%, do not have like the correct goggles on to see that. You know what I mean?
It's hard. It's hard to, winning and losing is like I said, it's such a hard topic because there's so many sides to it. And I think that people really from the outside, and I find myself doing that as a coach too sometimes, it's like, did the hand get raised or did the hand not get raised? Yeah. And it's hard. And like, I think that was one thing, going back to my dad, that was so impressive, was his ability to maintain, I don't even know what the right word is. I don't want to focus maybe, or just like composure and the vision, and maintain all those things like in the face of adversity and failure, where if he wouldn't have handled our competition the way that he did, like the successes wouldn't have been there, right? And he wanted us to win. He's competitive. He's ultra competitive. Okay, I tell people all the time, we get the athleticism from my mom, and and we get the competitiveness from my dad. He doesn't like hearing that because he thinks he's athletic, but
that's so funny.
But my mom's ultra competitive too. But I mean, the point is it takes a long time for some guys, and the number one focus is progress, getting better. And if you're getting better and you're doing the right things and you're focused on doing what you're being coached to do, and people aren't derailing the train by saying stupid crap after matches, to their kids, like, you're gonna stay on the path, and you're gonna continue to make progress, and you're gonna start winning those matches. It is also difficult though too, because sometimes kids need to be told, right? They need to be told that they're being a baby. They're not fighting. They're not putting the effort in.
It's so hard to, like, there's not a generic answer that always is right. Like, what this kid needs to, in this situation, because of 1,000 inputs, he needs to be told the hard truth, where this kid needs to be loved on, right? And it's really not, for me, I just think parents after matches, I mean, we dealt with it this weekend, like, it's just hard. I don't think it's a positive thing for parents to be criticizing like their kid after a match. It's just really, I mean, unless it's a character thing, right? When you're questioning, I just think it's a dangerous topic for like, I think that gets crazily done wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that with correct grammar, but God, it gets
You're
jacked
from
up so
Alabama.
much. Yeah, no one's even gonna care, you know. So we talked about this earlier in the weekend, like that there's different kinds of kids in your room. So if you're a coach, you have different kind of kids in there. You have kids that they're gonna contend for a national championship. They're gonna be All-Americans. You have kids that are gonna be like kind of the B. I'll say A. There's the A group that everybody wants to coach. There's the B group that's like they're gonna be really good, but they're not the one. You know, they're gonna be state champs and maybe hit the podium occasionally at nationals. And then you have other kids that are just like kids that wrestled. You know, and you love all of them, right? But so there's like A group, B group, C group, if you will, for the sake of having the conversation, and how each one of them really needs to be treated differently. Like you can't force the C group into the A or B group necessarily. You know, like if a kid chooses to and puts in the work, that they can go that way, and you guide them on what's necessary to be in that group. But like if you have a kid there's certain kids that they need wrestling more than wrestling needs them, basically, right? And how do you handle like kids like that? I just think that because of the status thing, somebody sees a kid who wins and they go, my son's going to be that way. I'm like, man, like, I don't know if that's the right goal for your son. You know, let's let him choose that. Or a coach who wants, I mean, I see a lot of coaches who are coaching for their own personal status of like, you know, I want this kid to win, or they're trying to turn him into, this kid does not want it the way the coach wants it or the way dad wants it or whatever. You know what I mean? Talk to me a little bit about that. Like there's an A group, B group, C group, and you don't maybe use different terms for it, but.
Are you asking me like how I deal with parents of different kids in different groups, or how I deal with the kids themselves?
You said there's a point where you changed and you realized like, hey, what I'm supposed to do for this kid is not the same. Like,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to.
So kind of as we were talking just a minute ago, something that kept coming to my mind is the word discernment. I think discernment is a spiritual gift, and discernment is just knowing when to do what, really. Like looking at three individuals, A, B, and C, and recognizing that they're individuals and that they may need different things.
Bingo.
Right? And it's really, really difficult to do. You know, sometimes it's not easy to know what kids want or where they want to be. I mean, when I first got into coaching, I thought that everyone thought the way I think. Did that make sense?
Sir, yes.
I thought that everyone thought the way I think, right? So as a competitor, I grew up in an ultra competitive family, and the thought was like, if you're going to enter a game, if you're going to play a game and you're going to put the time and effort into it, one, why not be good at it? Two, why not set your sights as high as they can possibly be, right? Olympic gold, NCAA champion, whatever it might be,
Yep.
right? Like that's just like, if you're not training for that, what are you training for?
What are you doing?
And that was kind of my perspective, because that's how I grew up and that's how I felt as a competitor, you know? So you get into a room and you have all these different kids who maybe have never thought about being anything more than varsity. And like there were a couple instances where I wanted things for guys that I recognized that they didn't want for themselves.
I've been there and done that.
And that was really hard for me to learn that lesson, really, really hard. I think I pushed a little bit too hard. I think I damaged a relationship or two because I had expectations of a couple kids that they just didn't want.
It was not what they want to do. Dude, I mean,
And
I've been there.
it's hard because, like,
I swore I would never do that again. I'm sure I'll screw it up again at some point, but
when
I've done the same.
I think like when I'm in that situation now and I don't know what kids want out of their career, I don't know what they want out of wrestling. I try to take the time, and I've done this, like I did it once on this trip here. Like I try to take the time and sit down with that kid and say like, hey dude, like you got a lot of potential. Like you're a great athlete. You work pretty hard. Like you have a good skill set. You could reach a much higher level if you want. And I'll help you get there, but I need to know that it's what you want.
Do you find that there's more time, that you have more time to do that when you're on the road traveling in an event like this?
Yeah, and there's certain kids that I can never quite like. I just feel like I never get a chance to talk to them. And there's certain kids I talk to all the time because that's just their personality, and they're vocal, and they're easy to talk to, and they're around. And the kids that are more quiet, if I get a chance to grab them and be like, dude, like let's talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned more about what this athlete wants tonight than I have ever known because I took the time to sit down and talk to him. And
I'm always trying to encourage parents to like I'm like, dude, send your kid on the road. Like send your kid, I mean, we had 6 guys out here. They got to experience California. Like tomorrow we're going to Alcatraz and gonna see the Golden Gate Bridge. And earlier this week we went to Monterey Bay or whatever, and they saw one of the most beautiful places in America. And they were at Santa Cruz Beach. Like there's all these like life experience, right, or whatever, but that's outside of wrestling. But as far as inside of wrestling, they show up and you have to live with these kids for a few days, whether you're all in an Airbnb or you're in hotels and stuff and you're eating dinner with them. And I find that a lot of those deep conversations, like even if I want to have them at home, it's harder to schedule time and separate it out and have a meaningful conversation where they're primed and ready to listen. You know what I mean? Where it's not forced. Like you could force that conversation, but when you're on the road and they're struggling because they just had a bad weekend, or they had some adversity or something, like they're willing to learn. They're willing to listen, right? And I've always like thought that. I mean, a lot of the times that I've shared testimony with a kid, was on the road like this, right? After they just took a hard L at nationals or whatever the case may be. I just wondered if you were that same way. I mean, I'm always encouraging parents to go on the road, and I don't know that I'd necessarily articulate all of the benefits of it, but I'm like, bro, this is.
Well, I think a lot of the relationships that you develop with a lot of your kids, that's where they happen because you don't develop a relationship with a kid in a wrestling room. It's impossible because you're coaching a practice and you're hollering and you're teaching and you're getting from group to group, making sure that they're understanding what's being said. And when you get on a trip and, we took a 12-hour bus ride, I get mad, I laugh, there's a lot of experiences that take place and you get to know the kids better.
Play wiffle ball on the beach.
We played wiffle ball on the beach. It was fun.
Dig a hole.
We tech falled them, wiffle ball 11 to 1. But I think a lot of conversations really, really happen there and with parents too. And I feel like the kids that I've gotten to know the best over the years, like, it's not like those kids are, they're just spending more time with us.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with like a favorite or anything like that. It's just like, hey man, like these 20 kids, they travel with us 4 times a year. I get to have conversations with them. I get to know them. I get to hear what they have to say. I get to see them outside of the wrestling room and see that they're kind of funny or.
You get to know them and then it turns into, because you're spending more time with them, there's more mentoring, right? Like there's more depth of relationship. I mean,
where some guys like show up in our room, they're in right before practice, they're out right after practice. I've had like no conversations with them ever because that's the entire interaction that I have with them. It's like a wrestling clinic. They're in, they're out. You don't get to know them. And so it is important that guys take the time to come on these trips if they can.
I was listening to Jordan Peterson. I don't mean to interrupt you, but he was talking about like the 20-hour mark. Like once you've spent 20 hours with someone, and then once you spent like 40 hours with someone, and like these different kind of break points that are all, based off of crazy metadata or whatever. But the different levels of like of relationship, basically at the points that you spent that much time with somebody, and I thought it was very interesting. I'm not going to remember all the numbers, but it was just very telling. I was like, wow, that's kind of what it's like, because like you said, those interactions are limited when you have 5 minutes, 15 minutes before or after practice, and it's amongst a crowd of people versus this kid's riding in the front row of the van behind, he's riding the front row seat or whatever and chatting it up, it's just different.
For sure.
It's pretty cool, dude. So the P&L's been dope this week. God, I could talk to you so long about all this stuff. It's been fun this week. What was your favorite thing about being in Gilroy this weekend?
Favorite thing. I don't know. I think the opportunity, I like these regional events that we do because we have the opportunity to train with other guys from other teams. And so like some of our guys got a lot of tough matches where, I mean, it would take us 5 or 6 tournaments to get that many tough matches normally.
Yeah.
Right? And they got them all in a matter of a few hours. And then we get to turn around and train with a lot of those wrestlers the next day. And so, you get to see these athletes maybe that are beating you in matches. You get to see how they drill. You get to see how they move. You get to see how they interact or how they practice. And it's super positive for our guys to be able to have that opportunity. Because I think sometimes when these guys are good, they get put on a pedestal and it's
So
like,
real.
man, I don't know if I can compete with this guy. But then they go practice with him and they score a couple points. And they're like, oh, I'm better than I thought.
Well, one of my kids literally said that this evening when we were coming back from the beach. He was talking about one of your guys, and he was like, man, that guy's pretty cool. And, I don't even know his name, but he said, low key, he kicked my butt in Chicago. So one of your kids smashed him, I guess. And I don't think they wrestled here in the match, but then they practiced some. They were in like a big live group together. And he was like, dude, I scored a couple points on him. He's like, and you could just hear in his voice of like, he's human, because it sounded like he was like in his, all in his head, like a thing of nightmares. I thought that was, so same thing. I don't think that parents understand that, but as a coach looking at my kids, we got 4 or 5 tournaments worth of like experience in this one weekend, like easily, if not more, like not even counting the training time, you know what I mean? And I feel like the value of that was a lot. And so for some kids, if you start taking a couple of L's, you got 4 or 5 tournaments worth of L's, and you're a kid that usually wins, you take a couple of hard losses and it's a lot, So I told one of my guys it was kind of like getting your Division I wrestling, your freshman year out of you, in the fall. It's like, yeah, you took some L's and took some lumps, and then you got it again and again and again. So it was interesting. There's some psychology to all of it, but it was a net super positive. I've really been loving what we're doing. I kind of spoke about that today to all the guys at the academy, and I was just saying, how awesome it was. I think the boys are experiencing that, or all the athletes, boys and girls, are experiencing that. There's benefit in like networking and interacting with those people and figuring out that they're all human. Like, hey, this kid from Utah is just like me. He's got a dirt bike and likes to go to the lake and plays other sports or whatever. And I think that's really powerful. They're having some friends and stuff. And as coaches, it's been awesome because we just get to get around and hang out, talk, kick the tires on things going on in the academies or whatever else. And it's been a huge growing experience all the way around.
For sure.
What's our next event?
So next youth event is the youth regionals. So we'll be hosting a youth regional. It's like it's January 14th or 15th, something like that. And then
is it the week after Tulsa, or is it the week before?
Before.
The week before, yeah.
And then February 2nd or 3rd, I think, is our P&L Youth Nationals.
Might have to come out there and do some snow skiing in January. You know what I'm saying?
Come on out.
Yeah, we've got Phoenix is going to be cool. It's the same day as our youth state tournament. I think we're going to kind of separate the chaff on that a little bit and have local kids go to the local tournament or whatever, and we're going to have a bunch of our kids that we're trying to pull up the ladder. We're gonna try to go to Phoenix with everybody and see how that looks. So, dude, it's really late. I know you got to get up early. We have a full day too, but mine's going to start a couple hours after you. So, dude, you're the man. I don't care that anybody else seen this, but I really appreciate you being as obedient as you are and the things that you feel called to do. I appreciate the integrity and the character that you have all the time and the way you coach and the passion and fervor, just all things, man. I got to be honest, it's very encouraging because you love what you do and you're pretty damn good at it, but you do it. I feel like you really do it the right way, and it's encouraging to me too. If I'm having a rough time, a rough go of it, I can call and you're just you offer some great perspective all the time, man. So I appreciate you being a good friend and doing a great job with your guys. Their character and attitudes, and they're all first class, man. It's really awesome. So thanks for all that you do, bro. You're the best.
Thank you.
Where can people catch you on social media, all the things if they want to catch up or come get a camp in or whatever?
Yeah, Sanderson Wrestling Academy is our Instagram, and SandersonWrestlingAcademy.com. So we have camps all year. And
I'm going to go ahead and put you on the hook for this. He's going to be coming down to Alabama for a camp here soon. We haven't locked down the exact date, but I have sworn in blood that he's coming and going to come stay at the house and all things. So we will put out a date for that soon, and everybody else can get the positive influence of you in Birmingham. Dude, I love you. You're the best. Thanks for everything, man.
Thanks, man.
You're the best, homie.